Well, a new report by the Anti-Defamation League has found evidence of pervasive anti-Israel and anti-Semitic bias on Wikipedia. The report states that at least 30 editors acted in unison to circumvent Wikipedia's content guidelines, spreading anti-Israel bias following the October 7th terrorist attack by Hamas. The report also found that this group of editors were in frequent communication with one another to intentionally spread anti-Semitic narratives and use pro-Hamas phrases on Arabic language pages. Let's bring in right now the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt. Jonathan, as always, thank you so much for being here. Now, we're going to get to in a minute Wikipedia's response, because they did respond and ban some of these people. But first, talk about this sort of conspiracy, this online conspiracy to spread anti-Jewish hatred and pro-Hamas propaganda, and focus specifically, if you will, where it really matters the most, and that is in Arabic speaking nations where they were just over the top.
Oh, I mean, over the top doesn't begin to state it, Joe. Look, let's just step back and realize Wikipedia is the most visited non-commercial website in the world. 4.4 billion people use it every month. It's bigger than Facebook. It's bigger than Instagram. It's bigger than TikTok. It's literally the default resource for students, for journalists, for ordinary people. And we began to become concerned because we were seeing evidence of bias. So we did what we do at ADL. We decided to kind of lift up the hood and do a data-driven, evidence-based analysis. We literally went back and reviewed thousands and thousands of edits, thousands of messages on the chat logs. And what we found was astonishing. I mean, we think about it as this decentralized, volunteer-led resource. In fact, it's being manipulated by small groups of editors with an ideological agenda. And we found clear evidence, 18 times more likely a small group of people to communicate in their group communications. We found tandem editing, where they coordinate their edits in clear violation of the rules. We found block voting on decisions. And here's why it matters, Joe. These individuals, invisibly, beyond the reach of what most people see, 30 or so people are able to manipulate articles on anti-Semitism, on Israel, on the Middle East, again, in a way that glorifies Hamas, as you said, in a way that plays down terrorism, in a way that literally misinforms the public. But it's
Jonathan,
again, so unseen.
It is horrifying this happened. Give us some examples so people understand how bad it was.
So take Samir Kuntar, a well-known terrorist who was arrested by Israel after, as a 16-year-old, he was a Lebanese Hezbollah operative who came into Israel, kidnapped a young father and his daughter, drowned the father in front of the daughter in the ocean, and then beat the daughter to death, this 4-year-old girl, with the butt of his rifle, and killed her. He was also involved in the hijack, the Achille Lauro. He had American blood on his hands. If you go to Wikipedia, you think he's a freedom fighter, because they've literally sanitized and removed any reference to his terrorist activities. And there are lots of examples of this. And you mentioned this earlier, Joe, the Arabic language Wikipedia. I mean, it's literally like just reading straight up Al Jazeera. Now, that would be okay if they were clear about their biases, but they're not. It is portrayed as objective. And here's why it really matters, Joe. Google relies on Wikipedia for their knowledge panels. OpenAI relies on Wikipedia for ChatGPT. These large language models, these LLMs, are built on Wikipedia. And it is time. ADL has kind of shined a light on this. But we need Congress, we need other watchdogs to see what kind of biases are going on here. We can tell you about the anti-Semitism they're spreading, but I want to know, is there more to this? Because I believe there is. I think the 30 editors that we found are only the tip of the iceberg. We need congressional attention on this. We need more consideration of what's really going on at Wikipedia.
Jonathan, good to see you this morning. Certainly an important issue. I want to change topics a little bit here and get you on the case of Mohammed Khalil, the Columbia student activist who was detained. He just wrote a letter from a jail in Louisiana last night. Says his due process has been violated. A lot of legal activists have concerned that he has been targeted by the Trump administration simply for his viewpoint and political viewpoint. And I know you and your organization certainly detest a lot of what he said. But are you concerned, though, about anyone, this individual or anyone, who might have their due process violated simply for their belief? Because, as we know, that has happened to Jewish people for decades, throughout the centuries. So what is your concern here? This could be setting a dangerous template for locking up someone simply for their political viewpoint, when someday it could be applied to others.
Well, look, Jonathan, I'm glad you raised the issue. Let me be crystal clear. Speech is not a crime in America. Thought crime may work by, in 1984, the book, but not in 2025 America. And everyone is entitled to due process here. I mean, our democracy rests on rule of law. And so I'm very alarmed about that. I will say that while, again, I feel like hate speech is the price of free speech, we have to be willing to listen to ideas, even those we detest in a democracy. The question for me is not his speech. What I really want to know, Jonathan, are about his actions, because we know that Khalil was one of the ringleaders of Columbia University apartheid divestment. We know that he was responsible, along with others, with a campaign to harass and intimidate Jews, Israelis, and other people who disagreed with his views at Columbia. We know, and I was there. I was there at Barnard on Thursday morning after Khalil and the others took over the building and handed out Hamas propaganda. So the Trump administration, if they're going to arrest people, they need to make crystal clear what is the basis of those charges. He deserves due process. Freedom of speech is a bedrock of this country. I want to know not his speech, his actions, and I want to understand if he was involved, let's see the evidence, and let's have a real case and a real conversation about what he did, not about what he believes.
Yeah, and to underscore that, Mika, to this point, he has not been charged with any sort of crime.
That's a problem. CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, thank you very much for being on this morning. And still ahead on Morning Joe, we'll get an update on the war in Ukraine from NBC's Richard Engel.